Hi everyone, I'm Gloria Giaconelli, Communications Director at Idana, and I'd like to welcome you all to the seminar here today. It's really great to see so many faces here because this is a topic that we're very interested in at Idana, but it's the first time that we've ever covered this. So this is new, and I'm glad to see that people are interested in seeing this, and hopefully this will be the first discussion of many. I'm not going to take too much time. I'm just going to hand over straight away to Alison. So Alison Zimmerman is the CEO of the Lead Network, and she's going to be moderating the panel today, and excited. We have some really great speakers. Just a quick reminder, the headphones there, it's not a translation. It's just because we're in an open space, so if the sound quality isn't great, please feel free to put those on, just for better quality audio, and otherwise, yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you, Gloria. Thank you for the warm welcome. Welcome, everyone, and the panelists. Welcome to today's session. Apologies to the people over here. I have my back to you. My apologies, I can't move the chair. But we're really happy to be here and talk about this conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the nonwovens industry. For many, this topic is not new, but it's so crucial now more than ever before, especially looking at talent shortages, employees, the next generation looking to work for companies that really are leading in this space. So we're very privileged to have the three panelists from this industry, but also across different sectors. And so for today, I'm going to introduce each panelist, and I'm going to also introduce their company. So I will be talking a little too much in the beginning. Forgive me. Okay, well, thank you. Welcome. I would love to start with Katja. Katja Hipschenberger is the HR business partner for corporate service companies at Freudenberg Performance Materials Service GmbH. After completing her business studies, she started her career in the HR environment of a company in the chemical industry, later completed her MBA, and worked in HR consulting. Since 2020, Katja has been active at Freudenberg Performance Materials, FPM, we will call for short for today, one of the 11 business groups at Freudenberg. FPM has 5,000 employees worldwide, and in her role, she looks after the corporate service companies division. This currently comprises 3 companies, 2 service companies, one of which is based in Romania, and holding company, where their global functions and management are based. Katja lives in Germany, is married, and the mother of 3 children. Welcome, Katja.
Thank you so much, Alison. Thank you.
And so, Freudenberg Performance Materials is a leading global supplier of innovative technical textiles for the markets of automotive, building materials, apparel, energy, filter media, healthcare, building interiors, shoe and leather goods, as well as specialties. And so the company generates sales of more than 1.5 billion euros and has 33 production sites in 14 countries around the world. So welcome. Stefan Moore. Hello, Stefan. Stefan Moore is the Director of European Business Activities for Johns Manville's engineered... I know, I stumbled on Johns Manville.
Everybody stumbles on that one.
Yeah, thank you. And so engineered products business. He's responsible for European sustainability initiatives, new business development efforts, and administrative functions in Europe. Stefan joined Johns Manville in 2004. He started as a market manager for roofing systems in Western Europe, and later added responsibility for all non-woven products in Europe and Asia. He moved to the global business responsible for fibers in 2020 and assumed his current role in 2021. Stefan earned a polytechnics degree in technical physics from Aachen University, and he and his family live in Kissing, Germany. So Johns Manville, if you're not aware, is a Berkshire Hathaway company. It's a leading manufacturer and marketer of premium quality building and specialty products. It's been in business since 1858, and the Denver-based company has annual sales over $4 billion and holds leadership positions in all of the key markets that it serves. John's Manville employs 8,000 employees and operates 44 manufacturing facilities in North America and Europe. So welcome, Stefan.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to need a drink of water in a moment with the intros, but thank you. Thank you for your patience as well. Federica Pompe, welcome. She is the Senior Vice President and General Manager for Feminine Care Europe at Procter Gamble, and is responsible for overseeing some of P&G's most iconic brands in the region. Federica has been a member of the P&G family for over the past 20 years and has the opportunity to lead regional and global businesses in Europe and North America. On a personal note, she is a mother of 2 children and is based in Geneva, not far from here. Procter & Gamble is one of the biggest multinational FCMG companies in the world, owning 65 leading brands such as Ariel, Fairy, Pampers, Pantene, Always, Tampax. P&G is present in 180 countries and have around 100,000 employees, with 40% of women representation. Interesting. So welcome, Federica.
Thank you.
So for the first question, I want to throw out to all the panelists. We're going to start with Stefan with the first question. And Stefan, please share what your company is doing in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah. Maybe the first question is, when does it really start? And it is difficult to answer, I have to say. We started, let's say, talking about the share between men and women already 15, 20 years ago or so. So I tend to say we are pretty mature on that side. But when this death of George Floyd happened, let's say, this was a great shock to our company. We kind of said, hey, this is not just in brackets about men and women. This is also about different cultures. This is about abled and disabled people. This is about, family. So what JM did was to launch what we call ERG, Employee Resource Groups. And in this word, you already see resource groups. So we try to fill these groups with people from our company, from, let's say, different regions, from different business units, different hierarchy levels. And so we have these team discussions in that groups concentrating on different topics. We have this women network team. We have ADAPT, where we talk about abled and disabled partnering, between the different people. We have Embrace, where we talk about the different races, cultures, ethnics, and so forth. So a couple of things, a couple of activities going on. And I tend to say we are nevertheless just at the beginning. So we do more activities. We kind of distribute this in our company. But again, just started.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You're not alone in that being the impetus, the murder of George Floyd. And the impact that had globally. So thank you for sharing as well what you're doing. Katja, to you, the same question. Share more about Freudenberg and the experience, around diversity, equity, inclusion, what you're focusing on.
Probably I would like to share a personal anecdote or experience I made when I graduated from school. I was very interested in a technical academic program, and I called a company, a global manufacturer in the building and construction business. They were operating cooperative studies together with the university. And I called them and I talked to a very nice lady, and then she told me that for technical positions, they actually don't hire women. So this was my actually really first experience with diversity inclusion at the beginning of my professional career. And I was like, what? It was at the beginning of the millennials. I mean, today, almost 20 years ago, I must admit, but nevertheless, we're still talking about it. It's such an important topic, It's not about gender, as you just said, that's absolutely true. It has so many different dimensions. It's about race, it's about age, it's about gender, it's about culture. It's just to be inclusive and to be invitive to people. And this company just simply, excluded certain groups from certain positions, and in this case, I was not invited to them, not invited to be at the party. And at Freudenberg, we really like to ensure that our people, they feel heard and they feel as a part of our company, of our business everywhere globally. We are a diverse company, as you said at the beginning, and the topic of diversity is within our fundamentals, our guiding principles. They lead us since the company foundation, which is about 170 years ago now. So it is actually really part of our DNA. Our company founder, Karl Freudenberg, he thought that having different minds, different mindsets, seeing the world with different eyes brings you more variety, more inspiration. This improves and supports and makes out the best of teams. And this is really the spirit which leads Freudenberg and all of our business groups as well to really think about diversity and to try to really bring it into our foundation and to keep these guiding principles and these values within our company, because we believe that diversity is a value.
That's great, thank you. Federica, same question to you with Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, so we have a motto for being a marketing company, right? A brand company. Our equality and inclusion motto is "We're unique and united." And again, there are some of these slogans that feel a bit superficial. This one I really like because I think it's very good in bringing to life the essence of what P&G wants to do and means on equality and inclusion, right? I mean, the idea that diversity is a value, and the idea that, to create an environment where everybody can thrive, we really want to leverage the individuality and each different skill set and style. But at the same time, we believe in the disproportional impact that we can make as a community that comes united by the same values and principles. And very similar to what some of your description writes, this is something that has been ingrained in the company for very, very long. We've been talking for long about the idea to being, a force for growth and a force for good. And actually, we do believe equality and inclusion as a role, in how we deliver growth, right? We are an innovation company. We live through, better products, better brands, and very similarly to your observation, we truly believe, and there is so much literature, that diverse brands are best suited to deliver disruptive innovation. Our programs is organized, of course, is equality for all, but very similar to 7K's, we started with gender years back. Now we have 4 pillars in which beyond women empowerment, we work on people with disabilities, our LGBTQ+ community, and ethnicity minorities with a particular focus in the US. And one of the things that it makes it special in the way we bring it to life, I think we all have an employee program. This week we talk a lot with our partners on our partners program. But being one of the biggest advertisers in the world, the role that equality and inclusion plays for brands is critical, right? So, just a few years back, you look at one of our advertisements and you see a woman, only a woman doing the dishwasher, a supermodel in high heels, okay? So who does that, right? How real is that? So we put a lot of focus in
typically.
It was never a man. My own as a woman, right, this unconscious bias you would cast, from advertisement, and without even thinking, it was, a woman's job to do the dishes or the laundry. So we've done a lot of reflection and a lot of work on our brand, to bring equality and inclusion to what we call, the media supply chain. In front of the camera, behind the camera. So in front of the camera, now we have a process and a tool to measure what we call about equal representation. We want to portray, people as they are, not just the stereotypical version of it. We have a program behind the camera. The media industry has been also an industry very male-dominated, right? So we have a target for at least 50% of our advertisement to be shot by female directors. That's where we are in Europe already, in the past couple of years, which is a great achievement because, you can really bring that, across the industry. But not every region is there yet, not every brand is there. So it's going to be a long journey. But we believe that, again, portraying equality and inclusion and bringing, we reach billions of consumers every day. So we need to have a program which is internal as much as external.
Absolutely. I love what you said about united, unique and united. I think oftentimes, having worked in this space for the last decades, is people want to make it all the same. Whereas you've got to celebrate the differences, but also the commonalities. So I really love that. It's an opportunity, especially with fast-moving consumer goods, where women are the largest buying decision makers. So it's great to hear that. Katja, coming to you, so we've heard examples, but how do you ensure diversity in each of your teams? It's one thing, we talk, and this I could throw to every panelist here. What's the accountability, and how do you ensure this happens?
First of all, it is necessary to understand that we think that diversity is a value, and it is a core value of our guiding principles, and the guiding principles lead our business. We are a family-owned business, so the family, in the end, they approve our strategic orientation, our strategic process rounds. So we have strategic circles, and there they really focus also on the guiding principles and on diversity. So during the different strategic rounds, we always create initiatives and goals we would like to achieve within our teams globally in regards of diversity. Like we created a diversity and inclusion community already many years ago. So we have representatives from the different business groups which come together. They have the ear and the connection to our BGHR executive teams to really have also the connection to our GL and board members, to get heard and seen. And they have created initiatives like we had in the US, which was really a focus tema already evolving in 2017 when the violence against minority groups increased. So we created scholarships with universities, for example. We are in a federal association part of to ensure that minority groups get more support also in schools. We hired actually a federal agency or a general or an external agency to support our recruiting processes in the US, also to ensure that we avoid bias, because everybody has some kind of bias. Yeah? It's important really to be aware of them and to reflect them and not to get influenced by them. Yeah? That's really, really important when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And here it is very nice that we already see first positive results for FPM. We have 3 major locations in the US, and we already have all minority groups hired at the same level. They are in the population represented, so this is very positive for us, and we really want to double size these amounts, and we are really focusing on this and to support minority groups. But it's not only this topic. Another topic is also, and has been in the future strongly a focus on, is gender equity. We are very technical company with a huge operational business. So it is very, very hard for us to find people in the technical and in the engineering and female graduates, or also operators, for example. There's actually no labor market there. For our businesses, and so we set a focus on improving our equity levels here, to really start with the recruiting approach, check how do we structure. I'm also responsible globally in regards of recruiting, so we really check on how do we recruit, how do we prepare our HR managers, our HR specialists to conduct the interviews, not to have bias, to really focus on competency-based interviewing, using the STAR technique, for example, training their hiring managers, their leaderships. Yeah? We have defined executive leadership programs based on our guiding principles. So diversity also here is a huge factor. And nevertheless, we really have our talent and succession planning strengthened, and we have a strong focus on it. So for all L2, L3 leadership positions, we always have a shortlist for our general management. They always interview female and women at the end, or general diverse of candidates, and we could really increase the amount of females at the moment represented. So to the end of 2020, we had a level of 36%, sorry, not degree, in L3, L4 positions, which is very positive. So this is also what can then mount up to the L2 positions. And in general, with our recruiting activities, it was possible for us to increase the number of, for example, applications we received by women in general. Yeah. So this was also really positive.
Yeah, that's great. If you do enough work in the front end, you can mitigate a lot of the bias in ensuring diverse slates, diverse interviewers, but also looking broader and wider at the talent systems and how are people being promoted. So thank you so much. Stefan, you mentioned the networks, and you mentioned, I also know you've launched a D&I council. Can you share more about the council, accountability? How is that tied to the council? What are they doing? And any activities that also align with the network, that'd be great.
The question you raised, how do you make sure that D&I is really part of the company's culture, so to say, is definitely, like with a lot of other topics, whether you talk about safety, about sustainability, also D&I, it has to start at the top management. So they have to be involved all the time. And let's say our senior leadership team is involved all the time. They kind of created a position within JM that is purely focusing on D&I. This person created this, what you just said, the council, the JM D&I Council. That is a group of people coming from different regions, coming from different business units, as I said, different hierarchy levels, and we meet each other, let's say, once a month. We talk about the different topics, and then, of course, all the ERG groups, employee resource groups we have, WIN, ADAPT, and so forth, are part of this council, and they report out what is their experience. Report out is maybe not the right word, but they talk about what is their experience, what are the stories they heard, what are the difficulties or problems we are facing. So we discuss it in a group and try to solve it, of course, quite obviously. So a lot of things going on, but apart from that, we also make sure that we talk about D&I in each and every important meeting we have, extended leadership meeting, works council meeting, and so forth. So it should be part everywhere. So a lot of things going on. If we talk about our WIN group, ERG group, Women Network Group, there we have a lot of initiatives going on. For instance, we are part of Berkshire Hathaway, as you said, and they always kind of throw out a contest about the United States basketball group. So you can vote which is the best team, who's going to win, and so forth. So JM decided not just to do it for or participate on that contest, but we kind of launched that for the female basketball group in the United States. So that really the people start to think about, hey, it's not all about men or about male athletics, it's also about female athletics. So you start to think about, to discuss, hey, what was your vote, and have you ever seen, let's say, a game from the female basketball contest? So, yeah, a lot of initiatives going on. We are pretty proud of that one.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Federica, P&G has a series of aspirations, actions, outcomes based on the premise of we aspire to create a company in a world where gender equality and inclusion are achievable for all. Can you talk me through some of these aspirations and how they're being rolled out across different streams? That it's not just for your employees, but also that's being addressed in your brands, with your partners, your suppliers, and also by supporting communities?
Yeah, so let me take, as I mentioned before, we do this work across different underserved minority groups. So I'll take gender just to illustrate the point, right? I think from an employee point of view, listening to Seven to Kadia, I think we have very, very similar structure, right? I mean, we have a goal to go to a 50% representation. We are on a path, we're kind of very close now when it comes to general population. But then now the work is when you peel the onion, and Kaya mentioned about it, is very different by function, is very different by level, right? I mean, by level, we're still not where we want to be. We are barely at 40% in, key leadership position. By function, we have made a lot of progress in our product supply chain, in our technical organization, but still not, at the space. So, one of the learning in activating our plans for the employee has been, setting up a generic 50% goal, not enough. Then you need to go into the details. Okay, what does it mean then for the STEM communities, the technical communities, to enable that at different levels? Now, but that I feel we share a lot of similarities in the work. The work that we've been trying to do a lot to expand the impact that the brand can do on the bigger community is truly one and all with the brands, right? So you mentioned before, I work for feminine care brands. So in a way, it's at the core of our brand purpose, to serve girls and women. We define our purpose to say we want to unleash their confidence to be whoever they want to be at every different life stage. And we had a long-term program in which we've been, providing school education. Of course, first period is one of these moments. Now, a few years back, 2018, we did a lot of more research, on that critical moment of first period, and some very stunning came out. So. I'm sure everybody has heard about period poverty when it comes to developing countries. Now, in 2018, our research showed that 1 in 5 girls in countries like UK or France miss school every month because of lack of sanitary products. Which was shocking. Transparently, I've been working in this category for now 15 years, and so we really felt, for us, this is such a critical part of our mission, of the brand role. How can we make a true impact that then is not just about communication? So we have a program in which we collaborate with a lot of government in Europe now. We have donated almost 50 million pounds, period production. We have a program that also believes we cannot donate ourselves out of the problem. And it did start with, what you were mentioning, Kadia, which is why this happens, right? A pad for a period is, €2. So there is an element of stigma and taboos around periods that then gets, period production, low on the budget choices. So we have a huge awareness campaign, to destigmatize period, to work with school, to create educational toolbox for, for parents in needs. Puberty is one of the, it's the first moment in which we know that, your confidence level drops. Everybody has kids has seen, your kids at their full potential, and then these teenagers' years where it's such a fragile moment. So we do so much now in terms of school education. We reach 80% of girls in between 9 and 12 years old. And we're seeing such a huge impact in the community, right? And that's a propelling effect. We can now work with more schools, we can work with more institutions, to try to solve together that, period poverty in Europe and in the world. But, Europe was a shocking fact.
Yeah, that's great. It's powerful. Recently there's a lot of studies out there, especially on menstruation. But when we talk about women, you have menstruation, maternity, and menopause, the 3 M's. Yes. And I'm sure, that takes into consideration, there's a lot of consideration given as well, the impact this can have on girls and women and overall. So thank you. Now I'm just going to check if there are any questions in the audience for any of the panelists, because I can talk a lot and I want to make sure you have a chance to submit something. Okay. So if you do, just please raise your hand and let us know. I would say for our remaining time, we'll do a speed round of the last questions. So I'm just going to pick a couple questions, but please feel free to share what you want to share. Katja, advancement for women is one of Freudenberg's priorities. Can you tell us what you're doing to help women achieve positions of leadership?
First of all, was really appreciating their work and supporting them into positions. When I joined Freudenberg, it was the first employer, I must admit, where I was asked during my onboarding phase several times what my career objective goal is. What is my career goal? I've never been asked this before. And I really, really appreciated this, and I really started thinking about it. And the topic of talent management and succession planning is very, very important for us. We have local, regional, and global talent man conferences we conduct. We conduct them in each BGs, and then we also combine it on corporate level and really focus on promoting and developing people, talents into further positions, including women. And as I just said, when it comes to really leadership positions, we always give a short list of the candidates to our general management, and then we conduct the interviews, and we try and check what can we do to really enable a person to bring in her fully and bring itself and qualification into this role and to develop the person into the role.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you. Stefan, for International Women's Day, I'm going back to something you shared earlier of the ERG and the WIN network. But for International Day of Women and Girls in Science this year, JM recognized women in the company who hold patents. How can marking these important achievements help to inspire others?
That's right. I mean, we always choose particular days in order to really make these recognitions to the people of our company. And as you said, we did this, kind of show all the women that has patents in JM. And so I think it was 24 of women we recognized with, I don't know how many hundreds of patents they raised for, or they did for JM. And so that should show maybe all the rest of the company, but also outside JM, that we really honor that and that we believe women can do it likewise every man we have in our company. So that was very important. With that, we also started up mentoring programs. So we asked specifically women that has leadership positions already in our company to kind of identify the talents we have in our company, specifically in this particular case, the female talents we have in our company, and to develop them specifically, to include them into the network, to share their experience with them, and so really to make sure that we get this all over the whole company.
That's great. Thank you.
I think probably
yes,
this is a very, very important point. We also do this. We need to create and build and design role models. Yeah? We need role models for our employees to see what they can achieve and how they can be supported. And this is what we also do. That's really, really good initiative.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, to see it, they say to be it, you have to see it. And it's also role models of different styles, different not only on gender, but seeing different ways of being. And there are a lot of men, and I'm speaking to men, and I know Stefan, you're our only male panelist, but there are a lot of men that don't fit into an idea of what let's say a leader looks like. They may feel they don't, and so it's really looking broader and wider. So sticking on the gender, I know I have a little bias just to say, but sticking on the gender for Federica, can you? One of the challenges of working women is trying to find the balance between family and their career. And this is for men as well. Let's call it out. But can you tell me about what P&G does to help professionals who took a career break, for lack of a better word, but who such as having children, and they want to relaunch their career? Can you share a little bit more about how that has gone?
Yeah, I mean, first I would say that's probably the one thing that stays the closest to me, because when I think about my personal story, the first child, my daughter, has been, for many parents, beautiful moment, but the lowest moment of my career, right? I mean, just I clearly remember a few horrible weeks in which you feel you're a very average manager at work. You're not a great mom. My daughter now, she's a teenager. She will still agree with that statement. But you just feel you're not doing any of these jobs right? And I'm very sincere. I think in another company that doesn't have the intentionality of P&G, I would have failed. I would have, I so many times in those days I thought, I can't do it. I'll step out, and I would not have stayed true, right? I think P&G has a lot of positive focus, and since my daughter, she's now 16, so these are no new things. After COVID, everybody's been talking about flexible arrangement. This is something that P&G has been offering, for a very, very long time, right? And again, when you have a kid, flexibility. I mean, your world is upside down. You're controlling things. You're controlling your time, the volatility of the days. So the idea to be assessed on deliverables and being able to flex work, to work from home, to take that afternoon off, but catch up, when you can. That's been, one policy that now is much more, even more concrete after COVID, but has been in the making for very, very long. And another thing that P&G does, and with intentionality to some of our STEM young talents, it can be, as you said, a moment out. It can be for when you come back from maternity. Has been a lot of, coaching support. We have, some great programs of one-to-one coaching, resources, for parents, and actually Pampers in our sector sponsored that. There is a Pampers Parents Network. Because one of these things, sometimes you just feel very alone. You just don't know what the answer is, and just getting that coaching, the tips, being able to share the experience and have, what others' parents has been solving that experience with. It's just refreshing. I mean, there is an immediate help on, okay, I'm not alone in this, somebody else. And then sometimes are not huge problems. They're little problems that you're trying to square. And, just listening to other parents in this case, it makes it. So these parent networks, which is really, is literature, is specialists that can help you on some specific problem, but that is a network of other parents that can just help you through some of these. I find some, to be some excellent tools to go through that period.
That's great. It's powerful. Oftentimes what blocks progress is not one big bias or it's usually this continual experience in little bits that happens over time. So having that coaching is powerful. I'm going to look, does anybody have questions that they want to ask about the companies, the panelists? Okay, so, no, there wasn't a raised hand. So thank you so much. I want to highlight a few things I picked up on, but I'm sure you picked up on much more as well. Bring others along, such as the ERGs. Simply being invited can be powerful. Simply asking, to one of the points that you made earlier. But it's also celebrating what's unique, but also what you have in common as well. And focus on guiding principles. Recruitment, if you do a lot at the front end, you can reduce the bias, but also looking at talent and management planning. And start at the top, to your point as well. And you can have at Lead Network, we always say top down, bottom up, and some say middle out. But it's definitely taking an effort across on all fronts. And then ask questions. Flex your work. It's not always possible that everybody can work remote. So being mindful, but how can you create that flexibility, for example, in an industry where that remote working might not be possible? And coach each other, get the support. I think employees look to companies to lead the way. The standards, especially with the next generation of what they expect from employers, is increasing. So thank you so much for your time and your contributions. And so I would just like a round of applause for the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so this first panel was focusing largely on companies, but I really appreciate the personal stories as well. So we're going to elegantly switch out the panels. And I'm going to take a drink of water while we do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we want to invite the next panelists up. And Katerina, do you have a mic? Oh, yeah. So one panelist is going to be mic'd up. Hello, Monica. Hi, Anna, Elena. Grab a seat, a water. And so we'll just give it a moment. Does everybody know you can wear headphones if it's too loud? Yeah. Okay, great. So while Katerina's getting mic'd up, this next panel is we're inviting 3 women from the same respective companies, Johns Manville, Freudenberg, and Procter Gamble. And so we want to hear more about their respective career progression and achievements. For example, how they got to where they are now, any challenges they've had to overcome, and advice that they would give to other women in the industry, and men. We want to be inclusive as well. So Katerina's coming. I'm going to just start introducing, I'll do Katerina next, but Anna Elena Marciano is the Chief Purchasing Officer at Procter Gamble and leads P&G's global purchasing organization, which includes all of the company's sourcing, procurement, and RPM planning efforts. Ana Elena joined P&G in 1988 as a department manager at their fabric and home care site in Caracas, Venezuela. After several assignments in product supply, manufacturing, supply network operations, and human resources, Ana Elena transitioned into purchases, where she has spent the last 20 years of her career. She is a mechanical engineer, and her home is in Mason, Ohio, in the U.S. So welcome, Ana Elena.
Thank you.
And Dr. Katerina, sorry we made you rush. You had to get mic'd up and all that. So Dr. Katerina Elmer is the Director of Innovation in the Global Business Division and Construction at Freudenberg. She has been with Freudenberg over the past 6 years and previously worked as an R&D quality manager in the US and project manager in fibers and textiles in Germany for Freudenberg business groups. She has her PhD in engineering and is married with 1 daughter residing in Italy. Great, welcome.
Thank you.
And Monica Nagel is a group plant manager for European spunbond plants. Monica joined Johns Manville in 1999 with the acquisition of the PET spunbond plants from Hoechst AG, where she started her career in 1989. She worked in quality management, technical service, and project management. In 2004, she moved into the operations area, taking over increasing responsibilities up to her current role. From 2009 to 2017, she has been responsible for Division Health, Safety and Environment, and later for Global Health and Safety. Monica has worked over 30 years at Johns Manville. Monica is a textile engineer, studied at the University of Hof, Germany. She lives in Augsburg, and she is a 6 Sigma Master Black Belt. Now, I have to admit, when I first read Black Belt, I thought Black Belt. I'm not embarrassed to admit that, and then I learned from Martin what the Sigma means. So clearly I missed that in part of my education, but that's great. So to kick off, a question to all of you panelists, and we'll start first with Katerina. You've had great success. What brought you to where you are today? And whatever way you want to describe this, like, was there a moment? Was there some experience? If you could share more.
Yeah, so as you can see, I'm obviously a woman. In addition, I have a background in clothing technology from a University of Applied Sciences. And there I have to start with an experience I had at the end of my studies around 10, 12 years ago. I was working in a research project together with all the real engineers and the real scientists. And I was invited to represent the textile part when we talk about laundry care. I was excited to share all my knowledge about different fibers, cotton, polyester, behavior, and about different clothing. My colleagues were listening to me, they were appreciating me, and then the decision was made, okay, let's keep it simple, let's stick to the standard, let's just look at cotton towels. That's easy. For me, this was a moment where I realized I like to be part of a diverse team, I like to bring in my knowledge, but not in this way. I like to do more.
Nice. Thank you. Anna Elena, the same question to you. What brought you to where you are and anything you feel comfortable in sharing?
Maybe I start saying a lot of work and determination and hard work. Listen, I'm a mechanical engineer, as you said, and I went to school and I was the only female, 4 females in a group of 80. So I clearly realized that I was the minority already, from the start. I joined P&G because it's a company of principles, and I loved what I saw. But I was also the only female at the site. Remember, in the production area, they didn't have a restroom for females because it was only guys, right?
Oh, wow.
So my first project, when I was training to operate the dry laundry tower, I built my own restroom because I didn't want to walk away to the other side of the site in the middle of the night to go to the restroom. So that was my first project at P&G, and I'm proud to say that I built a restroom for myself and for the females that came after me.
It's amazing.
So the whole thing here is, I knew I had a mission. I'm come from a family that supported everything I wanted to do, so I've been very lucky, right, to have a family, my parents, then my husband, my kids, but also an incredible company that you feel you can be unique and you can be united, and I can be myself 100% of the time. I also realized that I had a mission, right, to show the way that it is possible. You don't have to give up. You don't have to be a mom and a wife and have a family and give up on your career. You can do both. So that's what brought me here, right? But again, a lot of work and determination is the main thing. And a lot of support. I think that's a key component of that.
It's like out of the movie Hidden Figures that you built it with a different context, that you built your own.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that story. Monica, same question to you.
So I think it started with me already when I was at school. I always decided to go in the technical area when there was a decision to make, and I always recognized, okay, there's only a few women here, but it was okay for me, so I had no issue with that. And also when I was at the university, and then finally when I started work, I was the only woman in a group of engineers at this time, so 34 years ago. And the first experiences were, I can say, were not nice at this time. Kind of discrimination, people thinking, oh, now we have a lady who can give the coffee to everybody. Things like this happened at this time. And with this, I also see times really changed from that time to now. But I always had, on the other side, also mentors who helped me through that and said, hey, you're the right person, we count on you. And I had the feeling I always have to prove, okay, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And I got the feedback from some people that, yeah, I don't talk with a woman. We really had this experience in technical service in the past when you were in some countries and the people just denied to talk to you. But I always had the support from the company, and that gave me my kind of a motto that I said, I will never, ever give up. So this is one of the things where I was going through. And then nowadays, I really have to say, this totally changed. I no longer have the feeling, at least in my company, in my environment, that I every day have to prove that I can do it, although I am a woman. So I think that's really the big change from 30 years ago to now. And also now, things happen. Women are discriminated, but nowadays, the women have more power. They more stand up and say, hey, this is not acceptable, and it would have consequences for the other side, which was not the case in the past.
Yeah, I want to stay on that question that comment about how things have changed over 30 years. In addition, what else have you noticed? Is there anything that you would build upon that?
I think it's this. It's just that it's normal. For me, it feels now it's normal that women are everywhere. It's not we are not in the 50-50 area, but it's not, why there is a woman. It's just accepted now.
That's great. I remember I was working in South America briefly in my 20s, and I was working with a leadership group. I won't say the country, but I remember sitting with the leadership group one day, and I looked around the room, and we were at an offsite, so I was brought in for this offsite event for 2 months. And I remember looking around the room and saying, where are the women? And I asked them, where are the women? There were no women. There were no women. And they were like, well, I go, they're back at the office. And they said, yeah, there are women at the office. I go, no, they're women in this group. And so it was such an aha. This is aging me 30 years ago. That was such an aha for me. But I had never experienced it until I saw it. So I'm glad to hear that this is not the same as well. Coming to Katerina, so you took part in a scholarship program to promote equal opportunities for women in research and teaching. How important are programs like this to help women pursue careers in STEM?
Yeah, just to follow up on my experience that I had with my real engineers and real scientists that wanted me to focus on cotton towels, I didn't give up. I started to dig deeper, and I really detected a research gap. Laundering machines, programs are focusing on standards, mainly developed by men. I did research, I asked 1,000 people, and found out, 80-85% of women are doing the laundry at home. So I had my supporters. I had professors at both universities, because I had to overcome the challenge that I came from a university of applied sciences. And thanks to their support, I was able to apply for that scholarship. Mm-hmm. The scholarship is basically, first of all, money, to have money for my rent and for food in my fridge. Second, it's the possibility I was able to attend trainings on conflict management. How do I see my career in science and teaching progressing over the next 5 to 10 years? And the third point was I was able to connect with other women from applied sciences, from that research area that have different experiences or the same, to really build up a relationship and network. So in the end, for me, the scholarship was essential. And even though I agree things change over the years, they change slow. And as of today, we still need those programs in order to further continue to grow the talent.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Anna Elena, you've been with P&G for over 30 years. And have forged your entire career path there. So how has the organization supported you to get to where you are today as a woman, as a role model, but also as a member of P&G's Hispanic community?
Yeah, and I made a reference to this before, right? Starting from the example of the restroom. As you can imagine, you get new in the site and you say, hey, it's wonderful to be working here, but I don't have a restroom. And having my managers who say, oops, so go ahead and build one, shows you already from the start the kind of support. And that's been the case all along the way. The difference between before and after, I think it's about having the conversation. And what has changed for me the most is that it's very conscious, it's very deliberate, it's very intentional what we do at P&G. And we strongly believe that diversity and inclusion is embedded into everything we do. It's embedded into our business strategy. Fede referred to the way we operate in our brands. I can say the same with the way we relate to our partners. And let me give you an example to illustrate the point. We have a supplier diversity program in place that has been there for more than 40 years. So we intentionally go and look after diverse suppliers. That means not only female-owned and led, but also minority groups of any kind. And we intentionally go and say we want to spend money with them because we strongly believe that that builds a better community. And those, at the end of the day, are the consumers of our products. So that's going back to being a force for good and being a force for growth. We believe on the impact we have in communities, not only by what we do, the examples that Fede mentioned, but also the work we do when we invest in minority suppliers and when at the same time they have a supplier diversity in place, because that creates a ripple effect. Yeah. And that ripple effect is that what creates, a better economic environment, and that's, again, help the consumers and helps the society and the places where we operate and live. So it's very, very embedded in the way we do business. And we translate that to our employees, we translate that to our brands, to our partners, externally and internally. And that's fundamental to me. That's who I am, and the reason why I've been with P&G for more than 30 years, because it's embedded with our PVPs.
That's great. So I want to stay on that. So based on your experience, what do you believe the industry should do to promote inclusivity?
That's a great question. Listen, the more you read, the more you realize that regulators, and this applies to everything, to environmental, to diversity, to inclusion, regulators will ask companies and industries to play a much bigger role in the future. And we have to be ahead. We can see that as an opportunity and be ahead and win. Others can see that as a threat. We see that as an opportunity. We have a role and a responsibility to lead the way because we have the economic power. At P&G, we're spending today more than $3.8 billion every year in supplier diversity. It's not an accumulative time, it's every year, and we track and we measure that. And we have a goal to achieve $5 billion. Another number, we spend more than $50 billion on expenditure at the company. So with that spend power, we have also a role and a responsibility to help and to create a better community and to create that ripple effect that I was talking before. So I think that applies to everybody in the room, applies to the entire industry. We need to be intentional. We had, at the beginning of this week, we had a couple of our suppliers sharing examples of how they have embedded equality and inclusion into their strategies. And you can tell that even in the hygiene industry, that it's not easy work, for sure, but it's very possible. And to see the impact on the employees, to see the impact on the communities, to see the impact on the society where they are operating is really, really inspirational. So I think we all have a role to play. That's my whole thing.
I agree. And so, Monica, same question to you. When you think about, same question I asked Ana Elena, what do you believe the industry should do to promote inclusivity? Anything you want to build upon?
I think Ana Elena talked a lot about it, but I think we have to do the things and we have to talk about them. I think this is a good example why we sit here. It needs to be more promoted. We have to talk about all the little things we do every day. We have our HR person going to schools. We are not a big site where I'm responsible for, but she goes to schools. She talks to the women at school and tell them, hey, in the industry there is a place for you, even if you are not an engineer. Also starting on the shop floor level, doing this little steps every day and talk about, and this is a power we have as an industry to make things better in the right direction.
That's great, thank you. So, Katerina, I'm kind of doing a circle and trying to go back, trying to mix it up, but
That's fine.
Any questions, by the way? Anybody have questions for them? Okay, I'll assume not, but please interrupt. So, Katerina, what are some challenges women are facing or have faced in the manufacturing environment? From your point of view, of course.
Yeah, when I joined Freudenberg about 6.5 years ago, I first started to work out of corporate research. I realized people are core value. Katja already mentioned a lot about this earlier. I worked out of really diverse teams, and I had numerous conversations with my boss about how do I want to pursue my career, what are my dreams. Until at some point, I was asked to work closer to a manufacturing site, really on-site with productions. I didn't hesitate, I agreed. And few days after I started, I realized everybody on site was overly excited to prepare for the arrival of Dr. Elmers. They were kind of excited. There was a woman coming from corporate. Of course, she has a technical background. But I was excited too. I showed up. Yes, it's Katharina. We are all good. And I think there was skepticism, and it's healthy to be a little bit skeptical. In the end, I started, first of all, to ask a lot of questions and to listen. I was visible on the shop floor every single day, even then when we started to do more remote work, only have people there who need to be there. I saw a value in being there and being approachable to everybody. And then last piece is really I invested a lot of time in building up relationships and working together with everybody in a team, being honest, where we were really able to rely on each other, because that's what it's all about in the end, to bring us forward.
Great, thank you. So Monica, why is it personally important for you to promote women in senior leadership?
And I want to start, it's not only senior leadership. I think it's important to promote women everywhere, because we can't just jump on senior leadership. We have to be everywhere. And for me, the most important thing about it is it's diversity. And not only women, but all the other diversity topics we have. And the value we have out of that is that the teams work better together. If you have a diverse team, it's, first of all, it's more fun, because it's not always the same thoughts coming into the room. It's more creativity, and at the end, it's better results for the companies. And I even would see it a little bit more broader. It's not only for companies; it's everywhere. It's also in the politics. And if we overall would be a good share of women and men everywhere, at the end, I think we would also have a better world.
Yeah.
Because we use all the resources we have.
Yeah. I have a question for all three of you. How do you engage others in this conversation on gender diversity? This wasn't in the pre-work, but I'm just curious. And share, I know P&G has done a lot on engaging men. Anything you want to share on engaging others?
What I will say is have a conversation. It's just that it's not a taboo. It's not just the fact that you can talk about it makes the environment to be healthier. The other thing we do at P&G is we have this MAC training, which is men supporting women. We need to have, I love to see a guy in our panel, right? Because this is not about what women do. This is about what the industry does. This is what everybody do. It's not going to be the work of only a group of people, right? I had incredible group of mentors, male, that helped me through my career, and I will be always grateful to them because they understood who I was. They had the conversation. I'll share an anecdote that is kind of funny. I was pregnant. I was in my second site, and I was very pregnant, okay, and I had another baby. And this guy comes with the best intentions in the world. He was a friend of mine. I was due in June, and about March or something, January, February, he says, well, because you are going to be gone in March. And I was like, excuse me, who told you I'm going in March? And he was like, Anna, you're pregnant. Yes, I noticed. You have a family, you have a baby, this is a site. Yeah, check, done. What's your point? He was like, but you want to go on maternity leave. And I said, don't ever dare to make decisions for me. I love the intentionality. I know you're doing something that you feel protecting me or whatever you want to, but it's not, I decide when am I going to be working and until when. But if I didn't have that open relationship with him to say thank you, but no thank you, I'm going to be working here until the last day. And I did. I came on the site on a Monday, and I was due on Wednesday. So my point is, have the conversation. It's the only way to do it, and be open. Share the fears, the thought, the concerns on both ways. Is the only way to do it.
It's not only men. I had an experience, even though I've worked in the space of gender equity and inclusion, where I had a team member in Germany who was giving birth, and she had a speaking engagement 2 weeks after giving birth. And I just said, oh, we've got to find a different speaker. And she's like, excuse me?
Right.
I got it all figured out. It was such an aha, because I just made assumptions that even when it's meaning, doesn't mean that you won't be biased. So we all get it wrong at times. But that conversation is powerful. And that, Monica, is what you said as well. Do things, talk about it.
Yep.
And anything you want to add on engaging others besides that? Or
I think it's important that we already start with the kids, talking about what we do. And it was very interesting for me just yesterday. I talked with a young female colleague of me, and I said, because we talked about, of course, about that I will be here, and she said it's great. And I was kind of, for me it's kind of feeling normal now to be in that position where I am. And then she said, but wait a minute. When I talk with my friends at home about you being our plant or group plant manager, they say, wow, that's very unusual. So really spreading the news, talking about it, to the women, you can reach this kind of positions. It's no longer as unusual as it was in the past, but of course you have to do something for it, and we have to encourage them go in this, especially in the technical areas, to go in these directions, because this is a value for everybody.
It's a really good point, because there's research showing that women want a lot of the same things men want in the workplace and advancement. And one research showed that it's about having more conversations, which you've all touched on. Talk about an open dialogue. Don't make assumptions. So anything, Katerina, that you want to add on this question about engaging others, bringing others along? Because sometimes there's pushback in this area.
I fully agree on having those conversations. And then I would like to add on asking the question always, if something seems to be not possible, to ask, why not?
Yes.
This is one of the things that I also learned in the US. I always, with the German perspective, said, why? Why is it like this? And then I switched around and thought, why not? So this means to allow different roles. We all have our standards, our traditions, our expectations. Your colleague, your friend expected you to leave when you were pregnant at a certain point. Or what your colleague shared earlier, the expectation, the woman with the high heels on the dishwasher. So we all have those, but we need to really rethink our roles, our understanding of roles that we have.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, and not only for women, for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. It's an invitation to get curious, because we all have some assumptions that we make. So now I've lost my questions for a moment. Let me see. Okay, Anna Elena, I want to ask you, P&G is committed to increasing global spend with diverse and women-owned, you talked about already the suppliers, and women-owned and led businesses to $5 billion annually by 2030. Can you share more examples of what you're doing in this area?
Yeah, well, I touch on that. Again, the supply diversity program for P&G has been in place for over 40 years, right? So it's not a new concept. What we are doing is to be even more intentional, because it's not easy. It takes work. You don't find, and everybody here in the hygiene industry, you don't find either women-led, women-owned, or any of the minority groups in the US, African Americans, Hispanics, APAs, you don't find them easily, companies that are owned or led by any of these groups. So you have to be very intentional on how you do it. It takes time to qualify to be a supplier for P&G. So it has to be, again, I'm going back to my point of, it has to be part of a business strategy where we believe that's the right thing to do. We put a lot of accountability on each of the, what we call our business units, to say you are responsible for developing X amount of, this is your percentage by, to develop minority-owned suppliers. And we have a group that is led centrally to help developing all of these plans and strategies and to identify opportunities for these suppliers. We also put a lot of emphasis on our suppliers to create their supplier diversity, because part of our 3-point-something going to 5 billion includes what we call second tier, which means the first tier for our supply base. So we need our suppliers to help us with this. We might not find direct minority suppliers in the hygiene industry, but everybody in the room has a responsibility to find more suppliers within their space that then can contribute and be part of the second tier. I want to emphasize on the point that this is a very deliberate, intentional program, because you mentioned we strongly believe that diversity drives creativity and innovation. We believe that our diverse suppliers bring new ways of thinking, new ideas, new innovations, new products, new everything that help us innovating for our consumers, and they are the reflection of the consumers we serve at the end of the day. So that's, I mean, it just makes so much business sense. It's not only the right thing to do, but it makes business sense. And our goal is to reach 5 billion. We're not going to stand still. We think the number is very bold. I think we're going to be able to reach that before 2030, so we're putting more and more emphasis into that.
Great, thank you. I know the UN Women is doing a lot of focus.
And yes, thank you for the reminder. We connect, or we partner with organizations like We Connect that help us tremendously on developing capability. I mentioned before that it's not easy to find ready available suppliers that can serve our business. Yeah. We Connect help us tremendously on developing, training, all of these groups, so then they can, be our suppliers. So it's a very strong ecosystem working together. Right. I particularly think that We Connect is doing an amazing job in the area, and someone that we partner very, very closely with.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. So before we go to the last question, which is advice they would give to women, I just want to check, are there any questions? Anything for the panelists that you want to know, or their companies? Okay. I'm going to assume no. So, Monica, to start with you, you've had a great career so far, and you've come so far as well. And what would be your advice now, where we are now? What would be your advice to women, especially coming into the industry, or want to come in, or maybe curious, or advancing? What would you say?
I would say, first of all, stay as you are. Don't try to be a man or whatever, thinking when you are in the industry you need to be very tough and acting as you think men act. Not all men are like that. That's the first thing. And I think if you are in the industry and you ask, if you have started your career, also ask for the next steps. I think women more tend to wait that they ask, instead of showing up and say, hey, I think I should be the next in this position. And then, but when you are in a company, and also if you look outside, build your network. It's always helpful to have other women around you, or also have friends and people from organizations around you can ask, who can support you. If you are in doubt about anything, how would you see it? And also have, what I think was very important for my career, I always have good mentors internally. These were not officially pronounced mentors of me. It was just people I had the feeling they helped me, they support me, they help me come to the next level. And find these kind of people, and it can be a man, it can be a woman, it doesn't matter, but they should support you, should be supportive for you. And I think that's it. And on top, of course, but this is for everybody, work hard on it. So it's not something that just happens because you are there. You have to work hard on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great answer. Katerina.
Yeah, let's imagine you're a woman, you are highly qualified, you work hard. So I think we need couple of more advices. Yes, for women, fully agree with what you said. And in addition, I would like to add, if you get asked to do something, take a risk and move out of your comfort zone and do it. But in order to get this chance, you need the other side. You need your company, your employer, to ask you. In my case, I was asked to go on an assignment. Very important project, high visibility, huge risk to fail. Some people would like to say, "Ooh, I don't like to do that." I accept it. So accept the challenge and do it. But then at the same point, this also goes back to what I said earlier when we talk about roles. Sending a woman on an assignment, what's key? Company to ask you, woman to accept. And the third, the most important part, is the surrounding, the partner and the family. If they don't agree, if they don't come with you, and if they don't partially give up what they are doing, it doesn't work. And one experience I had was pretty funny. It was a November, rainy morning, embassy in Berlin. My husband and myself were applying for the US visa, and the officer asked me many questions about my job. I answered, he was satisfied. He turned around, looked at my husband and said, "Hey, what are you going to do over there?" And my husband said, "Well, cooking, laundry, and dishes." The officer laughed, gave us the visa, and wished us a lot of success.
That's a great answer. I was a trailing spouse for many years as my husband's career was going up. And then when it came for an opportunity in my previous job to lead a region, he followed me. And it was fascinating to see, you know, he would joke, he would go to interviews and that, but the pushback that he got as being the trailing spouse, which, by the way, I don't like that term, but I use it for this example. People would be like, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh, you're so lucky that, you know, you have somebody following." I'm like, "Hey, I followed quite a long time too." So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. They are dependent. That's the label they have.
But
and it's still exotic as of today.
Yeah. It was very unique for us as a couple too to observe the switch, and so thank you for that example. Anna Elena, same question to you.
I think both comments are brilliant, right? I fully agree. Choose the right partner. That's key. And that partner means, from a family point of view, partnership means from the right company. I mean, you need to be working for the right company with the right principles. But what I will leave the group with is, for the females, is don't let anyone to tell you what to do or not to do. You decide your future. You are there to drive and to do what you think is your own future and your own aspirations. And don't let anyone to say yes or no to that. It's just go. And when determination is there, things happen.
Brilliant end to this conversation. Again, one last check to see if there are any questions for the panelists. I'm doing a time check. We are really on time. But I want to summarize a few things that I've heard. And of course, you also have your summaries. Please share if you pick up on something else. There was a comment about desire to do more, and I like what you said about, you know, asking and taking a risk, but also determination. You had a lot of determination. The fact that you could get a bathroom, I have so many questions about that example just alone. But build your own restroom, and that could be a metaphor for a number of things. Never give up. You know, keep going. Be yourself. I love that example, because the innovation comes when every individual can show up as who they are. It's when they hold back and they try to be like everybody else that we lose that innovation. So it's a great summary. All of you talked in different forms about never giving up, and really that persistence and resilience, one could say, is powerful. There's so much more, but be intentional and go forward. So I hope this conversation was as inspiring for you as it was for me to learn from these women and their experiences, but also the previous panelists and their experiences. I'm going to assume we don't have any questions by raised hands, but I'm sure they'll be here a little bit longer because we are on time. So if you have any questions or comments or you want to share, please, come forward. So on that note, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
And also being the role models that you are, because people do notice, especially girls and women and men as well. So thank you.
Thank
All
you.
the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you.
We thought for sure we had it all, but look at the two of us now, just a table of fools.